Our table topics master is Stephen Siegel. Stephen told me that he's from Mars. It's an inside joke. And he is also the world's greatest volunteer. He has volunteered his time to Toastmasters for many years in various leadership roles. He is currently the area director for Area D1. He was the past VPM for Pro Toastmasters. Stephen, the meeting is now yours as Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I remember a long, long time ago when I was volunteering. This was when I was about 12, 13 years old. I remember the muscular dystrophy telethon, and it first started in New York, and then it moved to Las Vegas. And one time, my parents and I and my brother went to the Catskills for a weekend, and it was Labor Day, and they were having the Labor Day telethon there. I volunteered to be on the phones. It was an amazing feeling that I was helping other people achieve something. And when I got out and did other things, I just felt empty. So I had to go back. One of my questions is, when you were younger, what did you volunteer for, Tim?
Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests. This is a little difficult for me because I've learned to not make it a point to talk about what I volunteer to do, because I don't do it for the recognition. I do it for how it makes me feel. Oh, I could volunteer to turn my phone ringer off. Anyway, Mr. Table Topics Master, the closest thing I could say that I actually volunteered would be when I actually did get paid a little bit of money, but it was so little that it felt like I was volunteering. When I worked for the Democratic Party when I was a young man, from the time when I was 12, I worked my first campaign, and I also worked another campaign when I was 16, and then I worked another campaign when I was 18. And it gave me a huge opportunity to learn about the political process and learn some opportunity to understand the alignment and the ideology of the Democratic Party, and that I embraced for several years. And then later on in life, I had the opportunity to volunteer for the Republican Party after I changed parties. And I had the opportunity to understand and learn the ideology on a deeper level of the Republican Party. And for those things, I'm very grateful, because I feel like I have a very well-rounded understanding of the ideologies of both parties. Mr. Table Topics Master, I apologize for my phone.
That's all right. A little musical interlude was helpful. My second question is, when you volunteer, why do you volunteer? What makes you volunteer for a certain cause? Matthew.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Why do I volunteer? Well, volunteer is to help those who actually need it, and to give your time instead of just hoarding it for yourself and doing things for yourself. You can actually go out and help others instead of just thinking of yourself. So I always look at it as who really needs help. One of the things I always look at, and I cannot stand in this world, is our veterans that go to war, get injured, come back here, and have to ask us as the American people to help support them because they're not getting the health care that they need. I do as much as I possibly can on every holiday. I don't spend much as far as gifts on my family. I spend my money putting towards food to help any veterans cause that I find is needed. That's one of the things that I like to volunteer for. There's also a couple. There's another group in Kansas City that actually builds tiny homes for veterans, and they have gardens and little kitchens and everything in there for them. That's really what I think the volunteers for. Those people who really can help themselves, and that's basically what I look for when I'm looking to help somebody. Back to you, Table Topics Master.
Thank you. When I volunteer, I was volunteering for the multiple sclerosis. And when I was in Texas, in Houston, I volunteered to do a bike ride, 150-mile bike ride on a weekend. And that helped the Multiple Sclerosis Society. What I didn't know is they also pushed me to volunteer for 2 other rides, one in Dallas and one in San Antonio. And that was in October. And I did all 3. And each one forms a team. And the best team gets a prize, but we also get to see other people, and we have names that we put on there. And I feel really tired after the 150 miles, but I feel really good about volunteering to help someone else instead of me. How do you feel about it after you finish your stint as a volunteer? Kathi.
Oh, Stephen, that 150-mile ride is quixotic, whatever the heck that word is. I wrote it down. I'm like, quixotic. All right, there you go. You know, I volunteer. Well, I don't want to ruin my introduction in a moment. I volunteer a lot. And I volunteer almost as a way of procrastinating, doing anything that pays me. So I give my time away. Like, my time is, I got a lot of it and I don't. So normally when I volunteer, and I always volunteer, so I'm giving away my talent, right? When I made $150,000 a year, I just gave my money. I'd say, okay, I don't have time. I'm going to give them my money. And I would just write checks. Right? But now I don't make $150,000 a year. I know you're shocked by this. So I give away my talent, the things I'm good at. So why am I VP of Ed? Because I think I'm pretty darn good at like making a plan. I don't love making plans, but I'm good at making a plan. I am good at helping my church with schedules. So I know you're shocked by this, but I am the scheduling admin at my church. Shocking. NSA, I give my talents for marketing. So, you know, I think I have unrealistic, quixotic expectations for myself and the amount of time I have. I do not have enough time to give to the organizations that I do. But I will tell you this, my friend Cheryl Green says that us entrepreneurs and businesses both should talk about what we do. We should talk about where we give our time, because we are giving up, we're trading something, we're getting something in return, and we should be rewarded in our businesses. Whether you're a traditional business or you're an entrepreneur, you should be talking about what you're doing, because that is going to inspire people and attract people to you, Tim Chedester. So share what you're doing, read her book. It is Do Good to Do Better, and benefit both in your business and personally from the time you give away. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Wow, that was good.
Yes, it was. When I was married and I had 2 kids, I always made it a point to volunteer and have them volunteer. I remember my 10-year-old was volunteering. She says, "Can we do this, Daddy? Can we do this?" And my ex-wife looked at me like strangely, and I just said, "Of course we can." I want to impress upon them about volunteering. It is very important. When you have kids, or if you had kids, Brett, what would you do to impress on them about volunteering? And I know you already gave a speech, but hey, I have little to work from.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I think my son has seen the better part of his father and what I do. So I'm not going to have to encourage him to do anything. He will follow in my footsteps, as he often has. And that's with my commitment to Rotary. I joined my first Rotary club on the Gold Coast in Australia, and then later in Orlando in Florida, and then Dubai in the Middle East, and then to Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea. The kind of things we were able to achieve just really lifts your spirit. Our club single-handedly has almost rid Papua New Guinea of malaria. We provided mosquito nets by the tens of thousands, and we had water projects that gave them clean water. So the kind of projects that you do are just so fulfilling that I won't have to say much. When you lead by example, the kids generally follow. Better than pushing them, just lead by example. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Very good. I do not sometimes volunteer for the USO. When they ask me when troops come in on the airport, we sometimes clap for them and stuff. I'm there. Whether I have an appointment or not, I move it forward. Evelyn, in this day and age, with COVID and everything, what do you do for volunteering?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master and fellow Toastmasters. I'll actually go back to the first question about what I did to volunteer when I was younger. And back when I was in high school, I believe it was probably for 2 of my high school years, my junior and my senior year of high school, I volunteered at the Spring Valley Library here in Las Vegas, and I volunteered in the children's department. So my job was to come in on the weekends and help sort and organize books, put them back on the shelf after they were returned and brought in from being scanned back in. Another thing that I did as a volunteer was to set up the room and kind of like organize events that would sometimes take place on the weekends for kids, such as they would have hours where they could come in and play trading cards, or they would do like story time. And so my duty was to just pick out a few books for the kids or decorate the room and hand out snacks for them. And it was a very enjoyable experience. It also was very rewarding because I was able to gain skills that later on helped me when I started looking for work. And another big perk of that was that whenever there were items that the library was getting ready to get rid of, I would just take them. I would sometimes be allowed to take them with me. And so it helped me build a pretty good collection for my books. And that's one of my volunteering experiences. Thank you.
Fantastic. All of your answers were fantastic. Just to let you know, sometimes volunteering helps yourself, because I was unemployed at one point and I just needed to do something. So I went and volunteered, and I met a CEO who I was there almost every single day before everyone opened up and started working, and he was impressed, and he gave me a job. So sometimes volunteering helps you get a job. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.